What's up, Warport family? Your boy C-Dub here. We're here to discuss the players selected to attend this year's SEC Media Days, and we preview the defensive line and buck position for the 2024 season in tonight's edition of the Mid-Week Rapport. Let's get to it. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek Rapport. You already know what to do, y'all. Share this video, smash that like button, and please subscribe if you are new to the channel. Tonight's show is brought to you by our special sponsor, very special sponsor. That is the Rage Room. You got some rage in your system, don't panic, don't worry. There's a place where you can go release that in a controlled, safe environment where they won't call the cops on you. At least I don't think they will. Head on over to 1510 2nd Avenue, Opelika, Alabama, or 2616 7th Avenue South in Birmingham if you're in the Birmingham area. Go down there. They got a whole bunch of stuff you can break. Really dark, but with maybe seats, car seats, something like that, and cars and all types of stuff you can break. So head down there, show them some support. That helps us out a ton when you support our sponsors. Special shout out to the Opelika Rage Room. Mike, tell the folks how they can either get a green name or gift a green name.
Look, I'm giggling already like a kid because of these ad reads. But become a member. Media Days is next week. Ike and I will begin our trek to the down the Texas Trail. We're not going quite as far as Oregon, but we'll be in Texas and Dallas covering Media Days. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We're lining up all the media for you, so it's going to be you want to tune in, but you also want to be a member because some of that will be member only content that we'll put out for you guys. So follow us on social media. I promise you we will not disappoint you next week with our SEC Media Days coverage. Also, you can give the gift of the War Report to help somebody else get in on that. Guys, check your email because YouTube will just send an email out and be like, congratulations, you got a War Report membership. Gifted to you by one of the awesome members of our community currently. So watch out for those emails if you interact with our channel at a high level, but you have not made the decision to become a member, then you're probably going to be on the receiving end of one of these memberships. So, we appreciate everybody who does that. Also, check us out on the War Report Podcast Network, every single podcast platform. We are there bringing you guys lots of great audio only content. I joined the Up-Tempo guys last night, and we had a thrilling conversation about culture and what's going on there. So I challenge you guys, please go listen to the Up-Tempo podcast. Our guys, Justin and Blake over there doing a great job, as well as the College Loop. And, Auburn Express and Just a Sec are still there for you. Guys, I want to thank longtime show sponsor, Manscaped. Please visit manscaped.com. Use code REPORT to get 20% off that order, plus free shipping when you use our code. So 20% off plus free shipping. You guys know what time it is. Manscaped helping you guys get all cleaned up for your lady. Listen, there's something else you could do for your lady. And that is you can get in on this joy mode. Look, if you want to this is different. You can go to the rage room to get that rage out, and you can get a different kind of pressure out here with JOYMODE, JOYMODE.com. Also, use code report on everything, 20% off for you there. Look, guys, let's call out the obvious. Everybody wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our thoughts get in the way in our performance, or maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. What are your options? Pick a sketchy gas station pill or get a prescribed drug with a long list of side effects. That's where our friends over at JOYMODE come in. Imagine a supplement you can take like your favorite green packets that give you the extra dose of confidence and saves you the embarrassment and hassle of a traditional erection pill. joymode.com. Use code rapport and leave us a review and let us know how your ladies like it, fellas. In that order: Manscaped, Joy Mode.
Right. You probably should take the Joy Mode. Well, I don't know. It depends on how quickly before you're making the decision to Manscaped. So I don't know.
Take the Joy Mode. Hurry and get your Manscaped, and then
it's gonna take a minute to kick in, right? So you gotta it's like pre-workout though. But once it hits, you feel me? Like it's
And if there's anything left in your system, hit the rage room. You'll be good.
No, they probably do that instead of going to rage room.
I'm just saying, we got you covered. We got the full range of this covered for you guys tonight.
Man. Any kind of stress relief, we got you. And then go to the Rogue Shop and mellow out.
Yeah, that's it. We gave you one more than just trifecta there. The Rogue Shop,
some serious pressure. You had to hit all of those joints.
I think that's the only thing they do with the Rogue Shop is perform. Yeah, that's the only thing they don't do there.
Well, listen, let's get into it, guys. It's been announced the 3 guys who will be attending or representing Auburn through SEC Media Days. Eugene Asante, Payton Thorne, Keldrick Faulk.
Yeah.
So let's start with defense first, guys. Start with the defensive side first. Eugene Asante, no shocker there, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think most of us, we would have been pretty surprised with Eugene Asante. Let's talk about him. Mike, during this offseason, you've had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Eugene Asante. Your thoughts about this selection in terms of representing Auburn at SEC Media Days?
He was such an obvious choice. You're a huge personality, very well-spoken guy. He'll say all the right things, but he also will project the energy that you want at Media Days. Eugene Asante is going to go out there and he's going to get people excited about Auburn football, right? He's going to be a good reflection of your program. He's going to be a great ambassador for what you are trying to build and for why guys need to continue to come into your program. Media Days is your time to shine, guys. It is your time to have a big old billboard that says Auburn football, here's where you want to play, right? And here are the guys who are in it, the guys who are playing in it. You know, Eugene Asante believes in Auburn. And you need guys at Media Days that believe in Auburn. He is the mayor of believing in Auburn. So, you know, we talked about a lot of things during that one-on-one season. We talked about the Cal game. We talked about the motivation they took from Jay Knott's comments. And then we talked about how disappointing last season was and how these guys feel like, hey, man, we got to get over this hump this year. So, you know, Freeze has a 3-year, 4-year plan for getting Auburn football back to where it needs to be. But the Eugene Asantes of the world, they don't have 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They want to be in a winner now. And so you choose him because he's the guy. If you're going to get wins now, he's going to be a guy at the forefront of making sure you get wins now. He's going to anchor that defense. He's going to go out. He's going to get sacks. He's going to bring energy. And he's going to make sure that every day guys bring their best to the table. So you need that. Hugh Freeze said he felt like the best teams are player-led teams. Well, you need leaders that are players if you're going to have player-led teams, and Eugene Asante is just that. So I talked with the guys over at the Up-Tempo about culture, and we know that they put together a culture council. Guess who's on that culture council? Eugene is. So if he's going to represent you in that way, why wouldn't you take one of your culture council leaders to Media Days? You got to have him there. So, like, I don't know. Eugene was a great choice. Like I said, it was a no-brainer. I think leaving him would have been a massive mistake of epic proportions. Taking him is the obvious choice, and I'm glad that Freeze got this one right.
Ike, talk to me about your thoughts on Eugene Asante.
Yeah, absolute no-brainer to have Eugene Asante on this list. I would have been absolutely shocked if he wasn't one of the 3 that was taken.
And appalled, Ike. Shocked and appalled.
Yeah, it's just as Mike said, his personality alone is someone you want to be out there as a representative in front of the cameras, in front of a microphone, given that energy. And he can ball, right? Like it's not as if he can't go out there and produce on the football field. He was the leading tackler for this team last season. So he's going to go out there and he's going to represent both on and off the field. He's an excellent ambassador for Auburn. And he's an absolute delight to be around, bro. Like, he's just a genuinely nice dude, passionate. You talk to him after games when Auburn wins and the smile is there. You talk to him after games when Auburn loses and he wears that same frustration right there on his sleeve, and you can feel it oozing through his words and his demeanor. He doesn't like to lose football games at all. And that's the kind of guy you want to represent your team, because he feels the pain of fans, right? Like, he's like, I feel like I let you guys down. You guys came out here and you cheered us on for hours and we didn't get it done. He's the guy you want to represent your team, man. Absolutely right choice. No brainer. Like, they might as well have just, like, you could just hand that to him, like, off the rip. Like, as soon as they said, we're taking somebody, they were like, and the other two, we don't know yet. Because you knew one of them was going to be
Eugene. Eugene, if you're listening to this message from me, I do not take your shirt off at media days. I know you like to get crunked up and like, don't take your shirt off at media days. Just keep it on for just for that day.
I'm pretty sure they gave him the whole rundown.
He gets on the stage and he's like, "Let's work." So I can see Eugene getting too crunked up.
That would actually be hilarious, though.
Yeah, it would be great.
He would definitely steal the show.
He would make ESPN.
Sure. It would be TV history.
Yeah, the Sports Center ready right there. So.
Yeah, but don't do that.
Don't. Yeah.
No, he definitely strikes me as a emotional leader for the team for sure. And again, I'm excited about him, especially last year, how he became a bit of a revelation. Again, this was the Eugene Asante we was expecting when he touched down day one, when he came from UNC, right? But obviously didn't see the field. So it's great that we're seeing this particular guy shine and actually have the personality to match his intensity and play on the field. So couldn't think of a better person on the defensive side of the ball than one Eugene Asante. That's not really the surprise, though, in terms of who was selected, as particularly from the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk about one Keldrick Faulk. Now, this was a surprise to me, guys, because I think of several guys before I come to Keldrick Faulk.
Yeah.
Right? You got guys like Jason Jones, Keontae Scott, and Austin Keys. Like, there's a lot of guys you could think of before you get to Keldrick Faulk. Also, you tend to think that this is a opportunity that you would give definitely to an upperclassman, right? This is guys in his second year. So it's a bit surprising to see Hugh Freeze go to someone who's only been on Auburn a little over a year now to represent the university. Mike, talk to me, man. Well, how you feel about this one?
I was a little surprised at that. I think this was the one that kind of came out of nowhere. But let me tell you, let me go back to what I think being selected to media days means. It means that they feel like you represent both internally and externally what they're trying to project Auburn football is. I think this is a huge honor. And I think it should signify to fans that Keldrick Faulk has taken the next step, in his maturation process as a football player, as a person, and as a leader. Look, Hugh Freeze, I reminded people, if you feel like your best teams are player-led teams, right? Like, you're going to have some guys who just naturally fall in that role, and then you have to develop some guys. And I'm actually happy to see guys developing as leaders under Hugh Freeze. That's encouraging stuff. Because you need guys to step up. You need to see that guys are becoming the type of men that fans can be proud of. And I think that, again, this is without, I know that we allude to a lot of conversations we have. I have not had any conversations about this. I'm telling you, I'm projecting this completely, but it's just my opinion that when Hugh Freeze chooses you for something like this, it means that you have stood out. It means you stayed off lists. His infamous lists that he hates so much, and you're a guy keeping other guys off lists. That's fantastic news for fans to have a name come out of nowhere and be selected for media days. And it doesn't mean that other guys have regressed in their maturation. It just means that you have so many guys stepping up that it's a hard choice to choose only 3. That's tough. especially if you got a bunch of great guys on your team. But media days is a mix of the best players and the best spokespeople.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when a guy can do both, I think that should be encouraging, man. I'm really happy to hear this. And, for a guy like Keldrick with talent that we anticipated would be, because last year they took Elijah McAllister, right? And we knew what Elijah was, decent player. Was he ever going to be the best defensive person? Like, no. But he was great at the other thing, and that's why you take him. Keldrick, might prove to be a good mix of both.
Right.
So it's good to see that. I mean, listen. I mean, the defensive side of the football was the better side of the football last year. So I'm not shocked to see two guys from that side of the football chosen for media days. You got to take somebody on offense. Who did they take last year? Luke Deal and Cam Stutz.
Yeah.
Right, so we got one defensive guy, two offensive guys last year, and they kind of flipped the script this year. But I think it's a good sign for the maturation of Keldrick Faulk. So I mean, you should be encouraged by this. These aren't meaningless things, and because some people feel like we're just, you guys are just talking because you got to talk about something. No, man, the selection to media days is it's more than just symbolic. It is a meaningful marker in a player's career to get selected for this. Right. Of all your peers in the conference, you're joining, the few, the 48 players total that get selected to go to media days from all the schools. 16 schools, 3 per school. There'll be 48 guys there. And you are one of 48. Fantastic honor. I love this for Keldrick, and I think the fans should love it equally.
Ike, talk to me, man.
Mike kind of alluded to this point. This year, more than last year, you get the mix of ability on the field and good spokesperson, right? Because and this is going to sound as if I'm digging at the guys from last year, but listen, let's be clear again. Elijah McAllister wasn't going to be an all-SEC performer.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Cam Stutz people were surprised he was even going to start last year. So he wasn't going to be an all-SEC performer, even though he played well last season. He was a big portion of why that offensive line played better this season because he improved his game. And Luke Deal, not an all-SEC performer. They had to go to, these are the guys that speak the best, who I think can represent us at the microphone the best. This year, you're getting an opportunity to see guys that not only will speak well, Eugene Asante, Keldrick Faulk, and we'll get to the last name here, but they're going to ball. And Keldrick Faulk is a guy who was one of the more highly touted freshmen last year. A lot of expectations. I don't know that he lived up to those expectations last year, but he's another guy who, when you see him after the Maryland game, after the bowl game, he was visibly upset at the outcome of that game. He was audibly in critique of the demeanor of players on the team about. He was one of those guys, along with Fairweather, who were like, we got to fix this. We've got to fix the way that we go about business as a program here. And we need to get rid of guys who are not going to be about that culture. So this shows that I feel like from the moment he walked away from that bowl, from that Music City Bowl loss last year, he made up in his mind next year it ain't going to be like that. If nobody else is right, the D-line room is going to be right. Because we're going to make sure they get right. And I've talked to a couple of players. I know Jason Jones felt like that. He was like, next year we're not playing that. Right. Austin Keys was another guy who's very much on that board. I don't think they would have taken 2 linebackers, and Eugene Asante, I feel like, is the better of the 2 as far as representatives. So That's why he would get bumped down. But Keldrick Faulk took it upon himself to step up in a leadership role. And I like the fact that he already has a good voice in that locker room as a young player.
Yeah.
Because that bodes well for what Coach Freeze wants to do, which is bring on more high school players, right? If you're not going to get a bunch of transfer portal guys in, that means the next crop of people that are coming in along that defensive line will be, he'll be older than them for the most part. Right. And so he's already establishing himself as a leader in that room. If he does what he needs to do on the field this season, then that just increases the voice that he's going to be able to have, along with his willingness to take on. Because not everybody who is a good football player wants to be a vocal leader, right? Like just because you could play ball don't mean you want to be a guy up there talking. Some people are just, hey man, I just want to let my play do the talking. Some guys want to stand in front of the microphone, be in front of the firing squad. Hey coach, we lost. One of the most interesting things after a loss as a media member in there is who's going to be the player that walks out there from that locker room to talk to the media after the loss.
Yep.
After a win, they send about 15 people through there. Like I am not kidding you. Like they parade guys through there after you win a game.
Just talk to everybody. We're in a great mood.
But after a loss,
they're hiding.
It's like one or two guys who's going to be the one that's going to go out there, say the right things, is in the right mental state. And he's a guy that I think is embracing the role of I'll take the bullets and we'll see what happens on the other side of it.
Kind of loosely related, but like it is hard after a loss to just put a guy out there. Sometimes even if it's your best player, if you know they're temperamental. I don't know how much you guys have been following women's basketball this year, but like earlier this year, like when the Fever beat the Sky, the Sky hit Angel Reese. Yeah. I mean, she obviously is one of their best players. I think she's working on like 13 straight double-doubles or something crazy. And they were like, yeah, we're not putting Angel out there, or we'd be setting her up. Because you know what questions are coming, and you know that she's going to be Angel no matter what. Right?
And then they sent Kennedy out there, and she still did. She still was like, yeah, I ain't talking about it.
Yeah, she did exactly what they were hoping to avoid Angel. But you know, it is a luxury to have a guy who you can send out there in good times and in bad.
Right.
You know, and I think that, you know, this could be a signal that Keldrick is one of those guys that you can send out there in the good times and the tough times to talk about what happened. Right. And, you know, listen, I think Angel will mature as she gets into the league and she becomes, more ingrained into what they're trying to do. But, you know, sometimes
I think she's just going to be her, bro. Like, I don't know if you ever like.
Yeah, but that can change. She can decide to be somebody different.
The coach matters too, right? Kim Mulkey wasn't putting any reins on her. They were just letting her say whatever.
I don't know. I was better than Teresa Witherspoon is, but like
that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I say the coach matters, right? Like, you have to kind of set the precedent that you're not going to just say whatever, and so therefore I'm not going to allow my players to say whatever. Kim Mulkey would.
Yeah. So in that vein, Freeze, like, I mean, I think he thinks that he's saying what he should be saying sometimes after in these press conferences, but I
think Coach Freeze wants people who are going to lead with honesty that doesn't include emotion. Like Coach Freeze doesn't go out there and speak emotionally about things, right? Fair. Like he doesn't fly off the handle. He's going to be honest, but he's not just going out there letting expletives fly and being all like super like riled up or whatever. He's going to be honest, and he's going to say some stuff that might not play well in the media. I don't think he cares so much about that as long as you're speaking whatever the truth is from your perspective. And he doesn't want to have guys that are going to damage the brand that he's trying to build as far as bringing other guys into that culture.
Last comment, Mike. Last comment before we get to the next guy.
After you put a guy in front of the media, you want the talk to be about the play and not about what the player said necessarily, right? And so you just want guys to go out there to not make other headlines to distract your team. Right. You want the focus to be on football. And, as the media, we have a responsibility, I think, to ask football questions and not be Jerry Springer in these press conferences. And you have a lot of media that will do that across all sports. I think our beat is pretty good about it, about not asking. And then, every once in a while something happens off the field that they don't want to talk about it, but we have to ask because we have a professional responsibility to ask about things that are not football related, but that people did. So, again, when those times come, you want guys out there who will know what to say and what not to say. And you can't always coach them on that beforehand because it's our job to figure out how to ask you a question in a way that where we will get an honest answer. Yeah. So, you guys are going to think on their feet.
Let's get to the last one. Payton Thorne.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, you took to Twitter and you saw a lot of mixed mixed thoughts about this one, but to me, this one actually makes a lot of sense in my personal opinion because
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze has been very consistent in how he has talked about Payton Thorne this year. I mean, at the start of spring practice, he talked about how he saw Payton Thorne actually take on a leadership role beginning in January of this year. At an event last week, Hugh Freeze raved again about Payton Thorne's leadership. So he's been really consistent in his praise of Payton Thorne in terms of him being a leader. So it doesn't come as a surprise that he's one of the three representing Auburn as a leader.
Mhm.
But your thoughts on that, Mike?
I have look. So I was pretty tough on Payton last year, based on the things that I felt like he could have done better apart from, it's same way we kind of talked about Bo. It was like, look, man, it's not always everybody around him's fault. And it's interesting to see how people have jumped from if the receivers would just be Superman all the time for Payton would be fine, to now like zero faith in Payton Thorne. And I'm thinking, well, if you thought the receivers were the problem and you went out and you got Cam Coleman and DeAndre Lambert-Smith, why wouldn't you have more faith in Payton Thorne? Now, personally, I will die on this hill, guys. Payton Thorne was the same Payton Thorne last year that he has been his first 2 years, just without as much volume throwing the ball. Matter of fact, last year he had a better completion percentage than I think he had in either 2021 or 2022 by 1.5%. So if he was the same guy in terms of efficiency, well, what changed? You took 140 pass attempts away from him. So you knew who he was when you brought him here. And then he was that guy, and you blamed everybody around him. And I'm like, well, I don't know if the receivers were the problem more so than you just thought that they sucked, so you didn't throw the ball as much, and then you made him run it 100 times. So now, after talking to Payton, I'm thinking, well, a change in system and a little bit more belief in the receivers that they brought in should translate to more opportunities for Payton this year. And if you give him his 400 attempts, I think that will produce 3,000 yards, because we have two examples of that, of him doing exactly that. Now, people came at me and they were like, oh, but the defense, I mean, it's not like he was playing in the pack. He was still in the Big Ten. And if there were a second conference to the SEC, it is obviously the Big Ten. So short of playing in the SEC, what do you want? This is the guy that they brought in. So, I like that Hugh Freeze put his weight behind Payton Thorne. Now, we told everybody in the offseason they're not going to go get a quarterback, if you listened to some people on the beat, they were clickbaiting everybody talking about Cam Ward and these guys who were never going to end up at Auburn. I heard people say, oh, the smoke around Cam Ward, it was never real.
Yeah, no.
They weren't never going to pay $1 million for Cam Ward. So, what happened was what was consistent with Hugh Freeze had been saying all season. He feels like better pass catchers with good catch radius around the quarterback will result in better quarterback play. He's not wrong. But I think he understands what he has in Payton Thorne. And look, leaving Payton Thorne at home for this media days would have been a colossal mistake based on what you said in the offseason.
Yeah, that was going to be my entire. You couldn't project confidence in Payton Thorne as the starter this early, and him be a fifth-year senior and he not represent your team at me. There's just, I'd question all of the things you said about Payton Thorne.
Yeah. If you leave him at home, nothing you said during the offseason about Payton Thorne matters, right? Because you're saying, well, he understands the game at one of the highest levels any quarterback ever coached, and you're saying all this stuff about Payton Thorne. We got to take him to media days.
Yeah.
Now, Payton has not always come off the best in the media.
Yeah. Now that was going to be my question to you: as to what can we expect from a Payton?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting for me.
Yeah. The answer to that, Caesar, is we don't know. I think that you can expect a better Payton Thorne because he feels more confident in what he's walking into this year. Last year, he came in after the spring. He was drinking from a fire hose, and then he got blamed for everything by a certain subset of the fans. And you know, there were other problems and I think Payton was frustrated by that. Like, wait, I got here, and you know, I'm doing my best, but he can't talk about the systemic issues that maybe affected him as well as the receivers and everybody else. So you know what, Payton, since you can't talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. At times last year, this coaching staff sucked offensively. They were awful. The head coach said he was too busy recruiting to be involved in the game planning for the bowl game until the week of. What? All that has to stop. And I think that Hugh Freeze understands that he had to be a better version of himself for Payton Thorne. Now, look, Hugh had a lot. He's got a lot to juggle, man. He understood the energy that needed to go into recruiting because his core belief was you got to do it from high school. So he put all his energy into that, and it was successful. You got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, guys, and you cannot ignore the guys who you brought in. Now, you want Payton to do the job. He needs your support to do that. So if that's, and when I say support, if that's play calling, more attention, you know, more involvement in the lead up to, right? So that there is less confusion and everybody is on the same page about what the game plan should be. That's what you have to give Payton Thorne. And I think when we hear from him on media days, he's going to project that there is more alignment from that perspective than he had in the summer of his first year here, which was truncated because of when he arrived on campus. And he had to absorb a lot really quickly, and he didn't have time like other guys who went through spring have to develop chemistry with his teammates. And the SEC is brutal, man. It'll eat you up and spit you out. So for Payton Thorne, I think what you'll see on media days is him projecting like, look, man, we have a plan. I bought into that plan. I feel good about where we are. And we're going to go out. We're going to make a lot of people upset because we're going to do better than they thought we were going to do.
The question I would ask if I was there is a lot around Payton Thorne has changed in year two. New offensive coordinator. You got some new receivers around you. Hugh Freeze more than likely will be calling plays. What's different about Payton Thorne this year?
What's different about him?
What has he, as you, and again, it's going to be a question to reflect on how last year went. What are some things that you're doing this year that's different? That's one of the things that I would probably, if I was there, I would ask Payton Thorne. I mean, what's the 2024 version of it?
I'm hoping the answer to that is his confidence, right? Because at times last season during games, he projected a lack of confidence, whether that was confidence in the game plan, whether that was confidence in what he was seeing play to play, whether that was confidence in the receivers that he was throwing to. He projected a lack of confidence. And then when you talk to him outside of a game and, you know, he didn't seem to be confident in what anything, like he just didn't feel like it. You never got the sense that Payton Thorne was comfortable last year. And I'm hoping what he says the difference between Payton Thorne last year and this year is his level of comfort and his confidence. Because if you're uncomfortable, you're lacking in confidence as a quarterback, you're going to be out there struggling the entire time. You can't ever get into a place where you're going to be playing winning football as a quarterback in that position.
Yeah.
Good talks, gentlemen. Listen, we definitely want to hear you guys' thoughts, especially if you're watching on replay, about the 3 selected for SEC Media Days. And while you're watching, guys, don't forget to share this video. Smash that like button to get our likes up, help our engagement in the algorithm, and please subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're going to pause, come back, and discuss and preview defensive line and the buck position after we pay some bills.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Guys, you know the deal. Sign up. become a patron. We love it when you guys do this. We'll be out at Media Days bringing you guys lots of coverage, and there's going to be some patron-only content for Media Days that you definitely don't want to miss. We've got an all-star media lineup coming to the War Rapport all week long, so you don't want to miss that. Media Days is the event of media events for college football. There's nothing like it. No conference comes close. The War Rapport will be there. Also, give the gift of the War Rapport by hitting that gifted membership button. We love when you guys do this too. So hit that gifted membership button. Make sure somebody else gets an opportunity to get on the fun next week. Also, check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform. The Auburn Express talked with the Up Tempo guys last night on their live. So they're doing lots of great work over there. Please go listen to them. College Loop and Just a Sec are doing their thing. Thank title sponsor, the Opelika Rage Room. Visit them at 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama, and 2616 7th Ave in Birmingham. This is a different kind of fun. And I say this every time we talk about them, but if you've never broken a windshield with a baseball bat, it is oddly satisfying. So I was there the other day when they got a shipment of windshields in, and it was interesting to see all that stuff come through. People like to break baby car seats for some reason, but hey, it is what it is. Also, please visit show sponsor manscaped.com. Use code REPORT to get 20% off plus free shipping on your Manscaped order. They've got a lot of great products there. And they've got an all-in-one kit that comes with a beard hedger. It's Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer, as well as a shampoo and conditioner oil. Guys, they do lotions. They do a cologne. I have the Manscaped cologne. I've gotten lots of compliments on that. Visit manscaped.com for 20% off. And once you get ready for your woman in that way, get ready for her in another way by visiting joymode.com. Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our thoughts get in the way of our performance, or maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. JOYMODE Sexual Performance Booster is an all-natural and science-based back solution to increase blood flow, firmness, stamina, and performance. It comes in a palm-sized packet like your favorite electrolyte powder. So if you pull it out in front of her and she's like, hey, what's that? And it's like, it's a little electrolytes. It's hot out here. It's replenishing some. No, don't worry about this, right? If she asks to take a sip, obviously do not let her do that. But you can stir it into 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before sexual activity and watch the magic unfold. Literally. Not only is this the only supplement you'll need in the bedroom, but it also supports your blood vessels, cardiovascular health, athletic performance, and blood pressure, and other things. So joymode.com for 20% off plus free shipping with code REPORT. We appreciate them for coming on as sponsors of the War Rapport. So, yeah.
Word.
Yep.
Corey Dub, gifted 5 War Rapport memberships. Appreciate you, big dog. Also, War Eagle 42 with a super chat says, I think something people aren't talking about is that Payton Thorne had so many snaps attempts taken from him because we kept switching in Robbie.
No. So first and foremost, a bunch of people were saying this last year. It wasn't true then. It's not true now. That is even a large, I don't even know what percentage to assign this to be a part of the issue. It was part of the issue.
We looked at the numbers. It had more to do with flow than it had to do with opportunity. He had plenty of opportunity.
Robbie,
it was just the way they were calling the game.
I looked it up. Robbie had 131 snaps last season. Only 42 of those were pass plays, right? And so the opportunities that Payton would have had to throw the ball were not given to Robbie. Robbie barely threw the ball all season. So if you wanted Payton Thorne to be in there for that play and run the ball, then okay. But that would have only padded his numbers as a running quarterback, not as a thrower. So if you're saying, oh, he wasn't in the flow of the game, those were called run plays. So it wouldn't have changed his ability to throw the ball more consistently or more often last season. Again, to what Mike is saying, I think it was more so about when they were swapping things out that made the offense look bad or disjointed, but I don't think that impacted Payton Thorne to the level to which some are trying to make it seem as if I can't run with that one.
Yeah, I understand why somebody might think that, but the numbers tell a different story.
Corey Weber, appreciate the super chat. He says higher 3-point percentage this season, Denver or Miles Kelly?
Denver's going be lights out this year.
I think Denver's the better shooter of the two. Miles is probably the better overall scorer, and Miles Kelly shoots a decent percentage, but I think Denver's the better shooter. And he'll.
Yep.
All right. Let's get into it, guys. In the interest of time, let's get into this preview. Let's talk defensive line. There's been a lot of change with this position group. A lot of guys have left, whether it be through transfer portal or graduation, entering the NFL draft. Let's look at the room, people exiting, people coming into the program, as well as who's returning. They are as follows. Who's returning? Keldrick Faulk, who we've already talked about, Darren Reed Jr., Zeke Walker, Joe Frazier Jr., Quintrell Jamison Travis, and Jason Jones returns from last year. Obviously, you have some big-time freshmen coming in, TJ Lindsey, Malik Blockton, Amaris Williams, with Trill Carter, Gage Keys, Isaiah Rakes, and Philip Bleedy coming in from the transfer portal. Guys, your thoughts about this room going into this season? Is this a point of is this a position that you're concerned about? Obviously, we're concerned about the whole team, but particularly about this position, what are your general thoughts?
Yeah, look, I was talking to my guy Zach Blackerby over at Locked On Auburn privately about this, and he's been concerned about the D-line depth at D-line for all of the offseason. I think I have some of the same concerns, but I think that this got to be Jason Jones's year. Auburn needs Jason Jones to stay healthy, and they need his experience and leadership down there in the trenches. He's an absolute leader in that position group, and so you need those staple guys to step up, play consistently, and get other guys to raise their game as well too. So to me, a lot of the key to the defensive line play will be about Jason Jones. Along with the guys off the edge creating havoc and getting to the quarterback, getting sacks and doing what they need to do. So I'm be watching Jason Jones a lot this year to see how he does. But I think that he's going to be key to this position group being, one that the team can count on consistently. Now they may not have gotten to the quarterback as much as they wanted to last year, but this was a solid defense. They played well in stretches, and most if they had gotten more help from the offensive side of the ball to get a break and get off the field, and not have to have so much pressure to keep Auburn in it every game, you might have seen a win or two more. So I like the defensive line. I have questions about depth as it pertains to how deep are they going to be? On defense, I think Durkin likes to rotate a lot of guys to keep them fresh in the fourth quarter. How many guys is Auburn going to have down there to rotate?
I get your general thoughts.
I actually feel a lot better about the defensive line after looking at some numbers from some of the transfers and after looking at some film on some of those guys. Particularly Philip Bleedy, man. The thing that I disliked the most about Auburn last year was, and I had hoped Auburn would address in this offseason, was the interior of that defensive line at the nose tackle position. I've just never felt like that was the most natural position for Jason Jones. So I didn't feel good about him being the solid, he's going to be in there all the time with what's the guy's name that came in from Kentucky last year, went to the league?
Justin Rogers.
Yeah, with Justin Rogers exiting, I was like, okay, so how do you replace Justin Rogers there on the interior of the defense who was rotating in with Jason Jones? If you're counting on Jason Jones too many snaps last year, you turn into the Marcus Harris issue of okay, he's good, but he can't play that many snaps. So now your defense, you can't play the tempo like you want to on offense because you're worried. I liked what I saw from Philip Bleedy's tape. I was like, okay, this is a guy. Mike talked about, the difference between Big Ten and SEC. He's a guy that played in the Big Ten last year and did well. He played well in the Big Ten as an interior defensive lineman, particularly at the nose tackle position. Then you get a guy like Isaiah Rakes, who has played in this DJ Durkin defense at Texas A&M, played a significant amount of snaps last year. Played well in that defense. So he's a guy that knows the defense already. So he's going to be able to rotate in and play. We already talked about Keldrick Faulk and what he was able to do as a true freshman. He's going to be able to step up in there. So it's three spots along that defensive line that we're talking about, right? You're talking about your defensive end, your nose tackle, and your defensive tackle. I just ran down 4 guys that will span across those 3 spots. I haven't even mentioned Quintrell, Jamison Travis, Jamison Travis, who I think actually is pretty good. Gage Keys, who came over in the transfer portal, and Darren Reed, who a lot of people had high hopes for, didn't even get into the freshman, right? And so I'm not as worried about depth for this year. I think this team actually has a pretty decent amount of depth. And if they can figure out how to play well together, that's one of the things I really liked about seeing. So for our guys who are Green Name Gang, the film review that I did on Bleedy is out there, so you can go and watch that. One of the things I liked about him, he's just a guy that's just going to do his job, man. If he's supposed to eat up blocks on that play, I'm eating up blocks. If he's supposed to get through and split the double team, he's going to get through and split the double team. I like this defensive line a lot more after watching that tape and looking at some of these numbers from the guys that came in. There's some guys I have some question marks about, but I think as a unit, they'll be good this year.
Which of the freshmen, if any, do you think actually gets into the rotation in year 1? Who do you think is the most promising? And Mike, either one of y'all can speak to that.
Most promising
of the freshmen,
of the true freshmen out of high school,
Malik Blockton, hands down. Malik Blockton, dude. If you see Malik, if you are in the Auburn area and you see a guy who might, Malik Blockton looks scary, dude. This dude is scary. The first time I stood next to him, I was like, holy crap. Like, he looks like he might lend me $5 if I need it, but then beat the crap out of me if I didn't pay it back. Like, he's scary. For a freshman, he's already physically ready for the SEC. That's wild. And usually on the line, it takes those guys a little bit to catch up to, physically to what you need to be, consistently physical, in the SEC, but man, he's already there. So for me, it's Malik Blockton. I think he has a chance to get a lot of meaningful playing time this year and help provide some of that depth that that I'm concerned about. But yeah, I like Malik Blockton to be a guy that just steps up and people are like, whoa, man, SEC freshman all SEC freshman team easily. Malik Blockton.
In terms of DJ Durkin's defense and what he likes to do with the defensive line, are they pretty much just eating blocks and just freeing up space for the linebackers to do their thing, or he likes pass rushers up front? Like, what does DJ Durkin like?
Yeah, I mean, I think each position has kind of a different focus depending upon what's happening, but their primary thing is in the pass rush is going to be occupying blocks because he wants to bring edge pressure or blitz a linebacker. But it's really how well do you stop the run, right? What Durkin wants to be able to do is make sure his linebackers and safeties don't have additional run responsibility. They have the freedom to move around. I got the freedom to blitz them when I want to, not have to blitz them if I don't need to. So your defensive line needs to be able to handle run responsibility. Are you going to be able to occupy blocks in the interior or set the edge if you're a defensive end guy to make sure that they can't run wide? If you can do those things in that Durkin defense, then the rest of the defense has less things that they've got to worry about. He doesn't have to, bring a safety down into the box. All right, cool. The Texas A&M defense is a perfect example from last year. Not very good as far as talent is concerned in that secondary. They were out of position a lot. They graded out poorly for the vast majority of the year. That front seven was so good against the run, it didn't matter. You couldn't run the ball on Texas A&M. They were one of the best run defenses in the country last season because that front seven was so good. If you're able to do that, it makes the rest of your – and so the Texas A&M defense graded out well overall because the front seven was so dominant. If you can do that consistently, it helps everybody else. And I think that Auburn has enough talent in the secondary that if you're playing that well up front, it's going to be a big problem for teams.
Who has an amazing year up front this year, in your opinion? Who's the guy who's like, this guy balled out this year?
Well, I didn't even talk about Trill Carter, man. I almost that's crazy. I didn't even mention him in this entire rant I was going on here. I think Rakes, man. I think the guy who's the most familiar with this defense is going to come in and do well.
Okay.
And then I'm going to hope your representative from that defensive line at SEC Media Days takes the next step.
Yeah, I was going to go with Keldrick Faulk. Yeah, I was going to go with Keldrick Faulk. I think so. I wonder about Morris Williams, though, right? Like, this is a guy, it's a strong 4-star guy that came in, and you know, he's solidly committed. Like, I like Morris Williams. I don't know, man. I want to see what kind of approach Durkin is going to take, and him and Charles Kelly are going to take to the young guys, because you've got a lot of talent here. To make no mistake, this is a talented group of like people who they added. You know, I talk about Bleedy coming in. He's, you know, senior. But, you know, you've got the young guys there, and Lindsey and Blockton and Amaris. And, you know, there's potentially a really strong base of talent for the future on that D-line. But, you know, and hopefully you get to bring them along in the first 5 games of the season. So, you know, you've got A&M, and you've got New Mexico, and you've got Cal, you know, sitting there, and then hopefully maybe at some point when you should be blowing out Arkansas at home, these guys get in and get a taste of what it's like to get out there and get after it. Yeah. So that should put you in a good position going into Oklahoma to be able to rotate a bunch of guys, spell your experienced leaders, and not have a drop off. But they should be able to catch up fairly quickly. I'm very interested to see how those 3 young freshmen are going to do, and if they find some space for them to get in there and get after it.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I would hope that in a blowout that we have, those guys can get an opportunity to get in and see some action for sure. I like Keldrick Faulk as the guy who really takes a step forward in year 2. He began to show a lot of promise at the end of last year. I look for him to pick up where he left off in year 2 and really have a good year. Let's talk about the buck position, gentlemen. Let's bring up that graphic. Here all is heading out, whether through graduation or transfers. In comes Jamonte Waller, Joseph Phillips, Kayron Crawford, the transfer out of Arkansas State. How do we feel about this room with Jalen McLeod returning? I think he was a bit of a revelation of sorts in terms of last year when they got him out of the portal, a major pickup, and he pretty much he flashed. I know he had some health issues last year, but with him returning fully healthy, how do we feel about the buck position with some reinforcements coming behind them, some talented guys at that?
McLeod should be second team all SEC at worst after this season, right? Like, if he's not second team all SEC at least, something went wrong. But I think McLeod is set to have a year. And I'm just going to pull this back up here again. Jamonte Waller, man, this was a guy who was committed to Florida. And, you know, he famously flipped to Auburn. You know, we heard some interesting stories about that flip. And, you know, I think he came to Auburn for the right reasons, but I think that he is another guy who has a opportunity to contribute early, and they're going to want to see how many of these young guys can get in there and mix it up and contribute. So keep your eye on Jamonte Waller. He's a fantastic talent. Look, the recruiting that Hugh Freeze did, because it's funny, we celebrate recruiting in the moment, and then after these guys get on the roster, it's easy to forget, I think, who these amazing recruits were after you're on to 2025 and you're bringing all of these other recruits that everybody's talking about, but these guys haven't seen the field yet. And I'm telling you, man, Jamonte Waller is a guy that may staple your defense for the next 3 years. Yeah, he's that good. He's got that. Well, let me say this. His potential, his ceiling is that high. And so I'm excited about this. You know, Hugh Freeze, how can you not be excited about the high school guys? For as much as this coach has talked about doing it from high school, you got to be excited to see what the high school guys are going to bring to the table. And I'll tell you, when you're that guy, you show that from your freshman year when given the chance. I think that on the other side of the ball, Cobb did that as a freshman. He showed easily, I think, why they recruited him and why he should be the guy next year. I think his talent is that good. And so defensively, you've got guys like Jamonte Waller who should give you the same type of feeling in year 1 right? The defensive guys always get more opportunity because in these positions you rotate more guys than you do offensively, right? So there's no reason if Auburn is doing this right that we shouldn't see plenty of Jamonte Waller. Like, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but like I like him.
Yeah, I like him. I like Joe Phillips, man. I think they've got some young, talented guys.
Really well at that position in terms of recruiting.
Keyron Crawford is a guy who I haven't seen a lot of tape on, but heard good things about. So if you've got a solid rotation of 4 guys that you can bring in, I don't feel like they brought Crawford in to not play him. So unless he just isn't going to be quality, because Steven Sings came over from Liberty. He didn't play any snaps, right? So it's not unheard of for them to bring an edge player in from the transfer portal that doesn't see the field. But Crawford being a sophomore, a young guy who's got a couple of years of eligibility still ahead of him, I think the plan is to bring him in and let him rotate in. So, but Jalen McLeod's the guy, but I'm looking forward to seeing who steps up from that group of younger players that's coming up, whether it's the true freshman or Kayron Crawford, the transfer. But I think that's a good group. I think that's a very good group.
Yeah, I think you bring in Crawford so that you can slowly bring those 2 freshmen along and not have to rely on them as critically to be the first man off the bench, right? You want those. You want to ease those guys in and get those guys adjusted to the game speed, adjusted to those 3rd and long situations and whatnot. But you got 2 guys with playing experience in Crawford, obviously, with our starter coming back. You like where you are with this position, especially compared to last year, where you were just kind of hopeful you was going to have some guys returning in that position. You got a lot of talent in that room now.
Yeah.
What do we expect to see in terms of pressure this year, guys? I know at times pressure was kind of hard to come by. What do we expect to see this year?
Yeah, between McLeod and Eugene, I expect to see a lot of pressure. If those guys stay healthy, they should be getting after the quarterback a lot this coming season. So obviously we're talking D-line, but I think the combination of those guys getting after the quarterback could be devastating for Auburn this year. So they got to find a way to not leave these DBs on an island.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you get after the quarterback, maybe 4th and 31 doesn't happen. But, and that had a lot to do with the play call, but but like, you know what I mean? There were some other situations in some games where late in game, you couldn't get pressure, and better quarterbacks, if you just give them one more second, they're going to get you. Right. Those were your Bryce Youngs and your Joe Burrows. And 1 second could be so devastating to a good, for you against a good quarterback. So when we went over the list of quarterbacks in the conference, think about it. Like Auburn has to play, 3 of the top 5 in the conference this year. Right. So you've got Brady Cook on the schedule. You've got Carson Beck on the schedule. You've got Jalen Miller on the schedule. And giving these guys more time to throw the ball is not going to bode well for you. It's not. They're going to have to face Jackson Arnold, when Oklahoma comes to town. It's if you're trying to get to the over, that means you're going to have to beat one of those guys. And beating them is going to mean making them uncomfortable. Flushing them out of the pocket, get them on the move, forcing them into mistakes, get a hat on them. Make them think about it every time that they're coming. When you are, they've got to believe. They got to believe that you're going to be in their face every single play. But, if you let a quarterback sit back there and get comfortable and think that he has all day to throw the ball, he's going to process the game pretty quickly. He's going to burn you. Most good quarterbacks will. Right. So, you can't let them get the ball out comfortably a lot. And I think, McLeod and the boys are going to have to really, really get after it. So I'm looking for him to have just a great season. But overall, pressure has to ratchet up quite a bit from what we saw last year.
Any thoughts, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, listen, DJ Durkin is an aggressive play caller when it comes to bringing pressure. And I expect to see quarterbacks under duress a little bit more this season. What I'm hoping is, and this is what I hated about, what's the guy's name? The Kevin Steele's defense is it felt like when Kevin Steele blitzed, it was the most ineffective blitzes ever. Like he would bring 5 or 6 guys and was just like, Was there any imagination in how this? Like, it just never felt like it worked for real. And Durkin is a guy who knows how to coach guys into disguising the pressure a little bit more and timing their blitzes a little bit more effectively. So I'm looking forward to seeing situations where guys are getting free runs at quarterbacks, and those quarterbacks are either feeling the pain or running for their lives.
Yep.
Right.
More often than not, when they have to get into those 3rd and long scenarios that Auburn was notoriously terrible at last season.
Yeah.
You know what to say? If you're bringing pressure this year, if you're able to put pressure on the quarterback, maybe we see less of those giving up a lot of yards on 3rd down. We were actually not bad on 3rd down. It was like, but we would put them in 4th and manageable.
Yeah, that was the problem. The 3rd down success rate wasn't high, but third and 16 gets converted on to 3rd and 4. I mean, gets turned into 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, and they're like, oh, we can just go get these other 2 yards, stay on the field. Hey man, keep them out of 4th and manageable scenarios more often than not. Get your offense back out there on the field. If Payton Thorne's going to get the requisite a number of attempts, then the defense needs to get off the field a little bit more often too. They got to help each other, and they didn't do enough of that last year. The defense was on the field too much because they weren't getting off the field. The offense was on the field not enough because they were too many 3 and outs or too many 5-play or less drives. Can't happen. Can't happen this season.
Agreed.
Listen, let's get to some of you guys' comments. We're going to start from the top. Daniel Denny, he sent this early on in the live. Can y'all believe that football season is upon us?
Yeah. Well,
Almost here, man.
As soon as media days gets here, it becomes real.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, like we're like a month out from this thing happening again. This offseason went by fast for me. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it went by fast.
It does seem like it went faster than previous years. It seemed like it took forever in the past. But yeah, I have to agree with that, Mike. I mean, and after media days too, it's like Big Cat weekend, players report for fall camp. Yeah. So once media days, it's almost like a back to back. So yeah, I'm glad it's finally here.
In 3 weeks, in 3 weeks, we'll be arguing about what everybody will be arguing about what they were told about what happened at fall camp.
Right.
Yeah, it's that time of year.
Yeah, for sure. James Burnett asked, did Coach Hugh Freeze actually pick these guys or did his teammates?
Coach picks.
Yeah, the coaches absolutely pick media days guys. Now, team captains usually has a vote from the players, but yeah, media days is not popularity contest. It's coaches picking.
Now, question, is Keldrick Faulk on the culture council?
Yes.
Okay. That also makes sense.
Yeah, it bodes well for you if you're on the council.
Yeah. Auburn Dad for life. Speaking of Faulk, he is the first true sophomore to go to media days. Not surprised at that.
Yeah,
I've always seen
the older guys,
junior or senior go. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Ant Robinson says it sends a message to other recruits that there are no favorites here in Faulk being a representative at media days. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Like, best guy plays, best guy gets to represent. And if you come here and you handle your business, you'll have every opportunity. And I think that's what you need to establish, right? Again, you're talking about culture council, player leaders, player-led teams, all these things. It sends a message that of no favorites, right? Like, it's interesting. I tell this is not football, but I was watching a women's basketball practice where guys, they had in the middle of practice, Johnny Harris stops everything and says, "We're going to run." And I'm like, okay. And so it was like suicide type runs. I forgot what they called them, but like, you run a little bit of the court and you run back and like, and there was one girl standing off to the side who I won't name, but I thought, I was like, well, what happened? I asked the coach what happened. They were like, well, somebody was late. And I'm like, damn, was the girl standing off to the side the only one who wasn't late? And she said, no, she was the one that was late. And the punishment was she had to watch her teammates run because she was late. When I tell you, like, you're talking about creating player leaders and talking about no favorites and everybody's equal, this was an incredible moment. And the good part of that story was the player that was late came back to practice and has been killing it ever since. And, it accomplished what Johnny Harris was trying to accomplish, to say, hey, listen, we will all be held accountable together, because you're not going to go out there and some of us win and some of us lose. One of us messes up and it results in a loss. We all lost. So we're going to feel that pain together. And I think that, Hugh Freeze is trying to do the same thing. He's just got a lot more guys. So it's a little bit harder. So you need the players to step in. You need your position coaches to reflect this energy. And, the whole thing about there not being any favorites, I think we left last year thinking that there were kind of some favorites for different reasons. And I don't think he wants that ideology to stick. I think that he wants to be fair across the board where he can be. And, so I agree here. No favorites.
Brad Browning says, if you told me 2 defensive guys were going to go, my pick would have been Asante and Scott.
I was on the Keontae Scott train. Obviously, Ike is on Keontae Scott everything, right? But I thought I was a little. I'm not gonna say I was disappointed that Keontae didn't go, but I thought he was a strong candidate for this.
Like I said, there was several people who I thought of before Keldrick Faulk. So
yeah. You could have given me 10 guesses, and I don't think I would have guessed Keldrick Faulk.
Yeah.
Which, no slight to that young man. Congratulations. Yeah. But yeah, there's again, I think that's a blessing that Hugh Freeze has a lot of guys. To your point, Mike, you alluded to earlier. You got a lot of guys on that side of the ball you could have chose. Mm-hmm. So it just speaks to the quality of guys that he has on that side of the ball. Chad says, please explain to me why would you put another year in Payton Thorne only to win one more game? Who's going to have experience next year to lead the offense without playing time this year?
Well, I mean, what choice do you really have? If Payton Thorne isn't getting it done, then I think they switch to Hank Brown at some point, and that'll be the experience that you're talking about. But, Hugh Freeze has been pretty clear that he felt like he wasn't going to have all the talent he needed to run the version of the offense that he really wants to run until 2025, 2026 anyway. So this is another bridge year where you're just trying to get through and do the best that you can. And, Payton Thorne is the guy for that in his mind. So, I just have to assume that the guy you're paying $6.5 million a year has a plan for who the next guy is after Thorne. Now, we may not be able to see that design yet, but you went out and you got Walker White. Is he ready to do it? And after Thorne is gone, are you ready to reinvest in that $1 million portal QB if you feel like Hank Brown and or Walker can't get it done?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this era of college football, it's such a year-to-year proposition at the quarterback position that I think that Coach Freeze is just like, to your point, Mike, we're not there this year anyway. So if we're not going to win a championship, let me just get through the season with a guy who I know already has experience and see what he's got. And we can pivot away from him if we need to, but he's going to be the guy that we're going to have out there. He knows what he's doing, and we've upgraded the players around him. So it should lead to a better offense this season. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I mean, your risk, of course, is you're not developing the other guys in game-like scenarios, but I think you're such a year-to-year thing with the quarterback position right now in college football that I don't think that they're worried about that. They'll make the decision about next year after this season's done.
Agreed.
Travis Latham, the super chat, $5 super chat, says, keep up the great work, guys, and War Damn Eagle all the way from Sweetwater, Tennessee.
Hey, appreciate that, Travis.
Travis. Appreciate that, man. Grab some more comments here. Ant asks, what about a Rhino sponsorship?
Is that another sex drug?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah,
the way the rest of those comments were going over there, I have a feeling that it's something I don't want to know.
If I Google this, I'm going to get a bunch of pop-ups?
Google on your phone. Stephen Neely asks, who's the leader voice in the defensive line room?
The leader on the D line.
It's Jason Jones. It's Jason Jones, man.
I would say that it's going to be Jason Jones, and I'm assuming Keldrick Faulk now has a leadership voice there too.
Sure.
I would assume it would be those two guys. I mean, really, when you look at that defensive line room, the only guys on that line that really played any snaps last year were Faulk and Jones. You had Walker, who played a little bit towards the end of the year after some guys got hurt.
Right.
So I'm going to assume the guys that played the most snaps have the biggest voices there. And if Faulk is a guy you want to put out there in front of the media, then his voice must be pretty loud too. So I'm going to assume those are going to be the guys.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Tim Two-Main Taylor says thoughts on a War Report game day spades and dominoes tourney with proceeds going towards On the Victory.
Yeah,
this is something. This is an idea that originated in office hours that they wanted to have.
Okay. Yeah, dominoes in my family turns bloody. Like, so we have not been allowed to play dominoes in about 8 years.
Yeah, I think that's true for several people.
Yeah, dominoes turns into fist fights.
Spades too, depending on how good or bad you are at it.
Yeah, and spades, you like beating up your teammate when they renege. Like,
yeah, you see what I'm saying. So yeah, if you're not good,
crime,
that could be yeah.
I feel it.
Not so friendly, but friendly fire, sort of thing. Auburn Dad for Life says, just had to say love all y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for making my day better in these tense times in my family.
Man. Still praying for you, brother.
For sure. Stephen Ely says, no more portal QBs, please.
Yeah, I think if Hugh Freeze has his way, that's how he's going to feel. But the portal is always there just in case something doesn't pan out. And that's how
Auburn and Hugh Freeze have both done well with portal quarterbacks in the history of the program and coach. So I don't
transfers,
I'm not. Yeah. I don't have an issue with a portal. I just get the right guy. That's really all. Like, whether it's a guy from the portal or a guy you recruited out of high school, just get the right one. I don't care where they come from. If they were but to this point, like, you think about the best quarterbacks in the last 20 years at Auburn, they've transferred in. They weren't guys that came out of high school. Right. Like, other than Bo Nix. Bo Nix is probably the best guy out of high school that's played. But outside of that, all the successful seasons that Auburn had, somebody transferred in and was the quarterback for those seasons.
Yeah. Well,
and again, Coach Hugh Freeze did that. Like, with the quarterbacks that what's the kid's name? Chad Kelly, transfer guy. Malik Willis, transfer guy. He's had success with transfer guys as well. So I'm not opposed to it. Just get the right guy.
Yeah. We'll see if Payton Thorne is the right guy in year 2 for sure. All right.
We will see.
TBD.
Exactly.
TBD. All right. I think that gets to I think we got one more here. Franklin asks, can you guys give us a sneak peek at some of the future questions that'll be asked at media days?
Oh,
are y'all cooking up some questions?
Oh, it just depends on how. So Hugh Freeze doesn't go until Thursday. So if you guys got questions,
I got time.
Hugh Freeze, you got all week to get us questions on one of the shows in the comment sections on social media. Let us know. I put something out there asking people on Twitter, like, hey, we'll try to get 3 questions in from you guys to the coaches if they're good questions. Just let us know what you guys want to hear about. But I
ain't previewing none of my questions because these folks steal around here.
Facts. Yes, this is a big problem. Somebody ask your question, but they'll ask it in a really lame way where you can't re-ask it. But I don't know. So
funny. Good talks, gentlemen. Mike, tell the people how to get a green name or get one.
You guys know the deal. Hit that join button. It's right there in your face. So if you can see it, it means you haven't joined yet. So, and once you join, it goes away. Or you can hit the gifted membership button if you've already joined and help somebody else join. You guys want to be members next week. I promise lots of great content coming out of Dallas. Ike and I will be there. I want to shout out the War Report Podcast Network, Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec. I went on the Uptempo last night to talk about team culture. Great discussion with our guys Dustin and Blake over there. Please go check them out, as well as the College Loop guys. They're working hard. I want to thank show sponsor Vintage 2298 Restaurant and Butcher Shop. If you've been watching The Mix and some of the other content that we've been doing, our sit downs have been here at Vintage. So we thank them for allowing us to come there and talk with coaches and players. But if you're looking for a great restaurant experience in the area, visit Vintage 2298 at 2298 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama. Last but certainly not least, I want to shout out show sponsor JOYMODE. Guys, we'll call out the obvious here. When it comes to bedroom confidence, you want to be the best version of yourself. JOYMODE has you covered with a bunch of options. Now, you guys reference this Rhino pill, right? Like, listen, JOYMODE says instead of picking up a sketchy Rhino pill from the gas station, you should order JOYMODE because it comes in a nice, yeah, right, yeah, it's one of them gas station pills. Don't do it. Right? Like, there's a lot of things you can get from a gas station that will definitely mess you up, right? And they're saying this is one of them. But JOYMODE comes in a little palm-sized packet that you can put in 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before sexual activity and watch the magic unfold. Not only is this the only supplement you'll need in the bedroom, but it also supports your blood vessels, cardiovascular health, athletic performance, and blood pressure. Athletic performance is interesting. Right? Like, so I'm just going to take some and then I'm going to hoop with a heart on. How does that work? This allows for your cardiovascular system to pump more blood seamlessly and effectively to the areas of your body that need it, whether during workout, sexual activity, or regular daily exertion. Visit usejoymode.com and for 20% off plus free shipping when you use code rapport. Again, usejoymode.com, 20% off plus free shipping when you use code rapport.
Yo, hooping with a heart on is crazy.
How does it control where the blood goes?
That's crazy.
Science.
Anyways, what you can do, guys, is share this video and smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. We're on Instagram and X at The War Rapport. We're also on TikTok at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys, but we will definitely catch you later. You don't have a mix coming out this week, do you? Are you gearing up?
We have a building rapport instead of a mix this week. Sat down with our guy Jake Crane. So like we did 2 separate segments, so we'll be dropping that this week, and there will be no mix next week because we're going to be giving you a different kind of mix. It's going to be a lot of Media Days content, so watch out for all that.
Makes sense. So stay tuned. We'll be previewing Media Days on the weekend tailgate. Hope to see you guys there. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and week. As always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.